What's going on, guys? I want to give an honest review of PFL after having gone to PFL Pittsburgh last night. I want to talk about what they're doing right, what I think they need to improve on, and also just like share about my experience having gone to that event. Uh, to get it started, I want to talk about like some of the notable fights real quick before I get into like the pros and cons of everything. So first off, they have something called the Knockout Chain Award. It's whoever gets the first knockout gets a chain with like a pendant thing on it, and they give you some time on the mic. Josh Fremd ended up winning it. He was in a bit of a scrap with El Salawi, and he slept him with a left hook. I'm talking about like crazy animation, like straight down on El Salawi's face, get that man a blanket and a pillow type knockout. And it was cool to see Frem talk on the mic after having gotten cut from the UFC. So that was pretty cool. Next notable fight was Dakota Bush versus Watley. Dakota Bush knocked out Watley with a overhand while Watley was moving backwards. It was really reminiscent of like the Drew Dober Michael Johnson KO when Michael Johnson was moving back in the second round and Drew Dober was coming forward with that overhand. Again, Dakota Bush, they gave him a little bit of time on the mic. He cut a promo. He was like, ATG's the best fucking team in the world. Like, classic fighter shit, but still really cool to see. Um, this fight I want to talk about, Bagoso versus Cartwright. This is where I think that the PFL fucked up a little bit because Bagoso had a really cool knockdown in the first round, and Cartwright ended up reversing the position after having gotten dropped, and dominated the rest of the rounds, like just grapple fuck Bagoso. But dude, Bagoso sat down Cartwright with the UFC 2 animation, wham, like Anderson Silva, like like lead elbow coming upward. I don't know what that's called. It's not the Muay Thai like lead elbow coming straight in. I'm pretty sure that Anderson Silva knocked somebody out in like King of the Cage, or I don't even know what's called, like Cage Rage back in the fucking day, with that elbow. If you know, you know. But Cartwright survived that shit. Ends up grapple fucking Bagoso for the rest of the fight, and they don't give him a mic. The crowd is booing the shit out of him, and Cartwright's flipping off the crowd, and they didn't give him a mic. I think they messed up not allowing him to cut a promo because that's how you turn a bad fight into a viral moment, where he's telling all the fans, piss off, I'm gonna do what I do. Um, yeah, I mean, eyes are eyes at the end of the day, and they didn't give him an opportunity to take that anger and drive up more of a following. Whether it's negative or positive, PFL needs viewers. This is probably one of the biggest crimes of the card. Pergande versus Julio Arce. Julio Arce is a UFC veteran. Pretty sure his last fight that he had in the UFC, he fought Herbert Burns and got cut off a win actually. And Herbert Burns was in the corner of Brigande, which was cool to see. Like the Kill Cliff team get it back in blood. And this one, literally, if you saw it, Arce was covered in blood. Um, but he ended up rallying in the third. It was a war. It was an entertaining fight, but Pagande did not get any time on the mic to talk to anyone in the crowd. Like they didn't have him cut a promo. He talked. I think I saw a clip of him on Instagram afterwards. They had they had the camera recording what he was saying, but nobody in the arena could hear it, which is like, what are we doing? Pagande is the PFL's like one of their homegrown talents. He's one of their bigger homegrown talents. He's 8-0, and all of his fights and wins are inside of PFL. Obviously, wins and fights, whatever. But yeah, allow him to cut a promo. What are we doing? The PFL does not have a big enough name by themselves to get eyes. They need fighters to build up their brand. They never had a Conor McGregor. They never had a Rampage Jackson, whatever, to build that brand in the first place. UFC can feed their viewers dog shit all day and all night, and we're going to eat it because the UFC brand is so big. But I'm getting into it too much. I digress. Let's move on, get these last two notable fights done, and then I'll talk about what they're actually doing right and get into some more of the negatives. Dalton Rasta versus Impa Kasanganay. This is where the PFL shined. They allowed Dalton Rasta, who's from the Pittsburgh area, to walk out to, uh, if you know if you're a Steelers fan, uh, and you know the song Renegade, they let him walk out to that song, and he swung a terrible towel. The crowd was going crazy, but Impa ended up getting the knockout. And it was overall like a really entertaining fight. It was only a 3-minute fight before Dalton Rasta got slept, but he opened it up with the flying knee. It was awesome. Like really good talent here. Kasong and I got on the mic, talked about his team. Robbie Lawler was in the ring with him as well. That whole Killcliff team was there, as well as the whole ATT team. Uh, Sick fight, sick knockout. And the final fight I want to talk about that was notable, obviously, is Johnny Eblen versus Brian Battle. Johnny Eblen dominated Brian Battle, and dominated is like an understatement. All the one-sided fights tonight, this was the most one-sided. Johnny Eblen picked up Brian Battle and slammed him on his head like 6 times. The crowd was chanting one more time, and Johnny Eblen got to a body lock, picked him up, slammed him again. Body lock, pick him up, slam him. Johnny Eblen, however, he starts talking on the mic. By the time he starts talking on the mic, 3/4 of the arena is already trying to get out of there so that they can not get stuck in parking. I feel like the PFL is just not giving their fighters like enough opportunities to build up their brand and whatnot, because I feel like a lot of this event was riding on Brian Battle actually and Dalton Rasta, because Brian Battle obviously already has a big following from the UFC. A lot of people feel like he was wrongfully cut from the UFC, even though that he was missing weight quite a bit. Um, but the PFL just doesn't have the stars that the UFC does. But this is where I'm going to transition into talking about the pros and cons of PFL. First off, I want to say uh, PFL inside the arena, it was like a really cool atmosphere. Um, Clearly, like the production value is good. I like Dan Hardy uh, on the desk. I like it whenever he goes to do the post fight interviews. Uh, Honestly, oh my days, it's fucking Dan Hardy, mate. Like, come on, how do you not like Dan Hardy? Stop the fight, dude. Um, I liked like all the lighting and all the like visual stuff that was going on the jumbotron and whatnot. Their announcer is super sick. Definitely the most professional event that I've ever been to um, thus far, and I've been to a bunch of like local um, sort of like amateur regional MMA events between PA and New York, and this one tops it as it should. It's a literally called the Professional Fighters League. Um, and it's cool that they're on ESPN too. However, I need to get into the negatives, bro. As I was going off on that tangent a little bit with Eblin versus Battle, they're riding on Brian Battle and Dalton Rasta bringing in the majority of the eyes. I know Johnny Eblin. I've known about Johnny Eblin for years. I've known about Impa Kasanganai for years. Uh, but they just don't give them like a big enough platform. It's not the UFC. Like the trash talk is sorta there with Eblin and Battle. Uh, but their social media presence is just like really weak and their advertising is really weak. I didn't start getting advertisements for PFL Pittsburgh like popping up on Google and Instagram until like the week of the fight. I'm a big MMA fan, so I knew it was happening, but I'm just thinking from like a business standpoint, like the PFL needs to put more effort and energy into building up their fighters than the UFC does because uh, they just don't have the brand that the UFC does. They can't just ride on hoping that Brian Battle, Impa, Dalton Rasa, and Eblin have that kind of following. Um, if you're an MMA fan like me, if you're watching this video, you're an MMA fan. But if you're not like super in it all the time, which is fine if you're an MMA fan, I don't believe in this nonsense where it's like, oh my gosh, dude, you're freaking casual. You don't know who freaking Sumiko Inaba is. Like, bro, let's keep it a fucking bean. Nobody has the mental capacity to remember all these people. Yeah, PFL needs to invest in their fighters for sure. Second off, I think that PFL really, really, really is just lacking in their like how do I say this? They're really lacking in their willingness to branch out. I guess this fits in with the marketing as well. They really don't branch out too crazy with their social media and stuff like that. Lover or hater, like Nina Drama and the other people in like the UFC sphere that do these like goofy interviews with fighters, like Nina Drama hanging out with Armin Saryukian and like Sean Strickland. Like PFL needs people who are willing to like interview these fighters and like do some sort of like entertaining interviews. Um, they need to do press conferences as well. That's important because like in the lead up to the fight, I saw a little bit of stuff like Brian Battle getting interviewed, Dalton Rossi getting interviewed, like funny moments where they have a counter where Brian Battle's saying, "You know what I'm saying?" like a million fucking times. Uh, but it's just not reaching. It's not reaching enough people. I guarantee you, the majority of the people who are in that arena did not know who most of these people were, and I feel like a lot of this can be fixed by more effort with social media, with the advertising and marketing. Um, I feel like the commentators are good. Um, you know what I mean? But also, finally, I just want to say, like, they need to stop trying to compete with UFC for Saturday nights because they sold out the arena that I was in. I don't think they sold it out, but it was pretty packed. Like it was shoulder to shoulder in most places. Um, However, like the majority of MMA fans would have just been watching UFC Seattle last night. You can't compete with UFC for time space. Like if they want to drum up more viewers, like if they want to get more viewers, they should be going on Friday nights, or even like Sundays, because the majority of people aren't working on Saturday unless you work in like the service industry and whatnot. They could be gathering more viewers by not competing with the biggest MMA organization in the world as far as time spots. I know that they want to compete with the UFC, and it's good that they're competing with the UFC. Without competition, the UFC is a monopoly, and they can continue feeding us dog shit events and can continue getting away with being in the fucking meta apex, which maybe I'll make another video talking about that. Um, but yeah, the time slot, dude, what are you doing? Like, would I rather if I wasn't from the area, if I didn't live in the area, would I have rather watched Johnny Evelyn versus Brian Battle or Israel Adesanya? I'm sorry, Brian Battle and Johnny Evelyn, but I'm watching Israel Adesanya. Um, a lot of this comes down to name value, right? Um, and one final thing, um, PFL has a partnership with Takedown for their clothing, and there was like multiple times that night where shorts were straight up coming off the fighters. Like Kajuba, his pants were down around his fucking ass. Like it was he was sagging, bruh. Josh Fremd, when he was fighting El Salawi, like El Salawi's leg got completely caught in Josh Fremd's shorts, like all the way through it. And I train like mixed martial arts, jujitsu, whatnot. Never once has anyone's leg gone through my pants like that. Sometimes it gets hooked on your shorts. Sometimes their feet get hooked on your shirt and whatnot. Like that shit happens if you're wearing like kind of baggy, like kind of a baggy shirt or like not tight fitting clothes, but like whatever takedowns got going on with like their waist, like the drawstring, it's like non-existent. You could get pants so easily in the takedown shorts. But yeah, pause. Major pause on the last part of the video. But yeah, if you want to know my opinion on any upcoming UFC events or picks for those fights, let me know. I'm also a fan of watching kickboxing and Muay Thai. Um, so I'd like to talk about that. One championship, I heard that they just canceled two of their events, which is a big deal. I know that they've been hemorrhaging money recently. Uh, so that's another thing to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have any. Let me know what kind of video you want to see next. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate it. Um, Peace.